Hears me? Okay. Yeah, so hello, happy to be here. My name is Juha Mattila. I'm with STERIS Life Sciences, and I'm going to talk to you about from equipment manufacturer perspective, specifically sterilizer equipment in pharma. Great presentation before this one, so I don't have to, by Mr. McKay, so I don't have to explain too many things about the pharma regulations and that regulatory environment, so we can kind of go pretty much into the topic pretty well quickly. So a few words about myself. So I've been also with this company since Matrix. I think that's a good reference point. So one thing you can look at here, so a lot of these ISO and CEN and other standards committees that I'm working on, and this is part of where I come from. So I am absolutely not a software engineer, nor an IT engineer. So I'm a process equipment mechanical engineer. So that's my profession. So bear with me with any bad terminology or whatever I might say, but I'm trying to tell you about the OPC UA, what we think we see the benefits from equipment perspective as well, what all different possibilities we're looking at here. So a couple of words here about STERIS and STERIS Life Sciences. STERIS is a multinational company with headquarters in the US with some 18,000 employees in 3 different divisions. And the life science part of it, supplying equipment and services to the pharma, medical device, and related research industry, is the division we are sitting in when we are talking about GMP sterilizer equipment. And that is what illustrates. So, and within the life sciences division, then we represent the capital equipment part of it. So looking at moist heat and VHP sterilizers, biodecontamination equipment, washers, and then critical utility equipment like pure steam generators and water for injection distillation systems. And this is where we can kind of I don't have to talk too much because of the earlier presentation. So the pharma industry is very well regulated from all different directions. So we're looking at, for example, the regulatory requirements set for pharmaceutical manufacturing, data control, all these kind of things. So we're looking at that FDA and European counterparts, EMA, and from chemicals agency perspective, and pharmacopoeia setting requirements. And then when we go to that, we go to look at all the different documents that regulate us or give us guidance. And now what is going on here is that, as was said also, we need to be safer with the equipment. We need to be in better and better control with the equipment to minimize any risk. So the legislation for European pharmaceutical manufacturing, the EU Annex 1, that gives guidance to that, was revised after many, many years in 22, so 3 years ago, and with 3 times more content than before. So that gives a lot of new requirements. Some of them are just, you just need to show the things that you have been doing earlier on, but there's also a mindset of going beyond just proving that you are in conformance with your equipment in and any process in a pharmaceutical manufacturing facility. So we feel that as equipment manufacturers, and you can only imagine what the pharmaceutical companies in their manufacturing facilities feel. Since everything you have to identify, assess, prioritize, and mitigate, and so you need to not only know what is your weakest point in your manufacturing process, but also to show a plan that how you're going to mitigate that risk that you are setting here. So looking at everything through risk assessment and improve your system and have a plan that you can show to the auditors and regulators if asked. So you must be in very, very good control. So this also comes down to, in the end, of course, to all equipment manufacturers, such as sterilizers, which are one of the critical equipment in this industry, because if you are performing terminal sterilization on a finished good, which is for example, a pre-filled syringe with the drug product inside, and then packaged, and you sterilize that before successfully, and you are in control before you take that product to the market, and you safely can administer that to the patient, and all the other products related to that. So you need to be in continuous control of your system, and you have to have established your contamination control strategy. And of course, equipment is part of that. So with that, so I'm not going to actually give you a like huge overarching example. I'm just going to look at something in a sterilizer. So we're going to look at couple of very small things, but what we consider also big things and big developments in the industry. Sterilizer control and monitoring. So over the past 10 years, we've had a lot of developments in the standards that are industry agreements on how to build sterilizers, what are the minimum requirements for sterilizers, what kind of processes you are making with those, and how do you validate those processes, how you make sure that you are developing a robust process, and how you are testing it periodically, and how you are proving all of these things. So when we are talking about sterilization processes, especially terminal sterilization processes for the finished goods, one of the key factors for proving that your batch has been sterilized is a biological indicator. So you're relying on a biological organism that you are killing in a process challenge device that are located, many of those in the sterilizer load. More in a bigger chamber and a little bit less in a smaller chamber, but you are looking at a biological organism that you're using for release. One of the release criteria, or one of the main release criteria of a batch. And we are in 2025, and we have accelerated developments in all control systems, and we've been listening to all these things about OPC UA, digital twins, anything related to modeling things, trending things better. So the ultimate goal is to improve patient safety, definitely. And one big driver is for many big pharmaceutical and medical device manufacturers is to go towards parametric release of your sterilizer batches. This means that instead of having a biological device that is destroyed so that the organism is not alive, but you would only validate your equipment against that biological organism placed in the most difficult location to sterilize. And then you look at the parameters that you're established. So you have an established recipe for your sterilizer that then you repeat over and over again in a specified load configuration, and proving with the parameters that they meet the requirements and they stay within the defined criteria. So that way you can release the batch without having to grow the biological indicators in an incubator and see, at worst case, 7 days of incubation before you can release the batch. Okay, so obviously there are intentions towards speeding that process up, but also bringing everything up to date and thinking about the accuracies of the process controls. What you can achieve is, of course, very much bringing more safety into these processes. So this is why the sterilizer process validation standards and equipment requirement standards have been recently implemented with requirements for having independent monitoring for the process controls, the critical variables that are specified by whatever different sterilization method you have. So typical things are time, temperature, pressure, and if you are looking at low temperature chemical sterilization methods, also gas concentration types of things. So when equipment manufacturers are starting to build equipment and starting to meet the requirements, so in this situation, where we have varying ways of approaching these things, especially from data collection and trending and analyzing the data that you get from the equipment, very often the basic solution is, and this is also, you have a sterilizer standard specifies you a couple of different ways, proposals on how to do these things. Some things are, of course, you have to do it this way or that way, but usually it's not that, but it's only you are setting requirements that you have to meet this criteria. You have to meet this criteria. You can't do this. You have to do it that way. So it is kind of open, but there are many different ways to do it. So the standard way is easily for a sterilizer manufacturer like we are, is that you have to equip your equipment with the means to do that. The independent control and monitoring means that you have your control temperature sensor and pressure sensor, and then you duplicate those so that you are taking the other sensor that is next to the controlling one to an independent device. That could be an independent PLC, segregated PLC, then it could be an electronic recording device that is independent, or you can take your data directly out to a central system or cloud or somewhere else. So there are so many ways, but this brings, as you can see, that this kind of a standard solution of today, with also looking at the pharma companies for the integrity of the system, security, all of these things often looks like this. So you are doing the independent control and monitoring, the comparison and alarming and everything, and batch reporting also inside your own equipment, done by your PLC or PC system, and generating the files and then pushing the file somewhere out, or even retrieving the file directly from the machine. Okay? So with the OPC UA implications, looking at the seamless data exchange, I'm picking this one of those words. So I just picked up some of these from entering into Copilot for some of the definitions, for sure. So this is the typical setup, what a pharmaceutical equipment configuration looks like. Too far. So you have many ways of doing things, and you are still connecting to the centralized system, okay? So why then would you do a standard everything in your machine and make it more complex? Because there are not so many companies that are doing it this way, that they retrieve all the data and they are using their own platform to generate the batch report and doing the comparison and alarming for this system. So you have to do it in the equipment itself. So that is a more standardized solution, rather than it's currently still somewhat optional solution to take the data directly out somewhere to be handled in the facility's own platform or through a cloud, OPC UA, all that. So this is why, if you compare it to the earlier diagram that I had, that had 3 blocks. So now you have only 2 blocks if you are just taking that comparison, evaluation, and batch reporting directly out without having to have any external physical independent recording devices or additional PLC or something. So with that, I'm saying that the equipment manufacturers can be very supportive for that, since that's simplifying really the equipment configuration. And as was said also before, let us focus on the process and the equipment, how that runs, and make the best out of that. Because also, and this goes with the question about the readiness to not have an HMI in a sterilizer. We have done those already, but to the point that, of course, those have been customized requests for facilities, not through a standardized platform solution. But we are saying that an equipment manufacturer can live without the HMI. You can connect it to that when you are testing the equipment, when you're servicing the equipment with your own system, HMI, whenever you need to do that at the FAT testing at the factory and all these different steps. Sure, you don't need to have that physical thing in the machine, and you can also drive towards remote control. So I'm not saying 100% of situations, since many of the sterilizers are manually operated for loading and unloading. So that gives you the dilemma of equipment safety when you have people, when you still have people in the area, especially when you have smaller sterilizers. Not very often you see automated platform of running the loads in and out of the system. Building that sort of automation around smaller sterilizers it's not easily justified. But for big terminal sterilizers, almost everyone does it. But there's a safety aspect. So whenever there's absolutely no one in there, when you are running the equipment, then it's feasible. But there might be some obstacles in the way from CE risk management perspective for personal safety that need to be handled specifically for sterilizers. If you have standalone equipment with no manual activity, like a pure steam generator or a water still that is sitting in the engine room, so that's a completely different story, since no one is going to load or unload or tamper with it with anything unless you are doing a service or some sort of calibration or validation or requalification maintenance activity, whatever you're doing. So from that perspective, this is what we are seeing as a sterilizer manufacturer, the possibilities that going to this kind of system with OPC UA is giving the possibilities to also simplify the sterilizers and focus on the essential. So that's basically our message on that. So, and this is really the conclusion. So by the way, I guess that's the first image of a sterilizer that I'm showing here in this presentation. First and the last image. So you get an idea of how these things look like. So really, simplifying the sterilizer equipment is not a bad thing, and driving towards the remote process control, and then better data management, trending, predicting, better control for your process. So that's where we are with this. Thank you.